Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Hello.
Hello.
Ah!
Hello.
Ah!
Oh, I already love this.
My goodness. Hello,
Hello,
friends.
Oh,
everyone.
I'm never leaving this Zoom.
I
I
know, right?
know. I don't want this to end either, and it's only just begun. Well, hello, everyone. You're all here.
Hello.
Let me just really quickly say a quick hello to the students and introduce you all, and then let's get to chatting. Um, So hi, everyone. Welcome to Voice One on Air. My name is Danny Scott, and I'm a professional voice actor as well as the school director at Voice One. For anyone new to Voice One, we are a voiceover school based in San Francisco, but due to the miracle of the internet, available worldwide. We've got classes for everyone from beginner to professional in commercials, narration, animation, video games, toys, and everything in between, and offer a robust curriculum in voiceover and acting. You can train on location at our studio in San Francisco or online in Zoom classes and workshops. Check out our website, voiceone.com, or email us at classes@voiceone.com. So today, we have not one guest, not two, but three incredible voice actors that I'm so excited to introduce to you. First, Melissa Hutchison, who you may know as the highly acclaimed lead Clementine in Telltale's The Walking Dead, winning Best Performance at the Spike Video Game Awards and receiving 2 BAFTA nominations for the role. You'll also hear her in The Last of Us Part 2, Legends of Runeterra, Space Racers, Cannon Busters, Spyro Reignited, Yokai Watch, Diablo 3, Hearthstone, The Wolf Among Us, Back to the Future, Sam and Max, League of Legends,
Oh
Sheer
gosh.
Ultimate Weapon, and Sailor Moon. And that's just scratching the surface. She
And
also
many
voices
more.
tons of toys and commercials and even played Rudolph in the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer 4D attraction. OMG. Gavin Hammon also stars in The Walking Dead as Kenny, as well as Skylanders, League of Legends, Oxenfree, Hitman, Halo 4, The Last of Us Part 2, Lego City Adventures, Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, The Wolf Among Us, Tomb Raider, and countless others. He's also highly accomplished in the world of commercials and narration and has voiced thousands and thousands of lines for hundreds of toy products, including 2 Leapfrog toys that won Toy of the Year and Best Selling Toy, as well as the world-renowned Furby. Whoa!
Yeah.
And
Hi.
last, yeah,
They're both Furby, I'd like to say.
That's
Male
true.
and female Furby.
I'm
You're a Furby
stunt,
too?
stunt
her into it.
Furby. Stunt Furby. I'm Gavin's like stunt. There you
oh
are.
my
You're down
gosh,
there.
that makes
Stunt
me
Furby.
so happy. I love Furbies. They terrify my grandpa, and that makes me just giggle.
Who are you? They scare my grandfather, and it gives me joy.
That makes me happy.
And last but certainly not least is Cissy Jones, who, believe it or not, is also in The Walking Dead, for which she donned a Belgian accent as Katya. Cissy won a BAFTA for her performance in 2017's Firewatch. Congratulations. You'll also hear her in The Owl House, Call of the Sea, Half-Life Alyx, Crash Team Racing, Darksiders 3, Spyro Reignited, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Destiny 2, Agents of Mayhem, Horizon Zero Dawn, Naruto Shippuden, Fallout 4, Batman Arkham Knight, and the list goes on and on. She also lent her voice to the Academy Award-nominated documentary Winter on Fire, as well as many national commercials, feature film trailers, and network promos. Between these 3 amazing actors, there are 260 IMDb credits, and that's just IMDb. That doesn't include the countless commercials and toys and other projects they have booked. So, wow, I'm so happy you're all my guests today. Thank you so much for being here.
That
Thank
was
you.
amazing.
Thanks for having us.
You're
Yeah.
all
Thanks for having
amazing.
Well, I mean, that was, you are amazing.
That was
Are you looking for a PR job?
No.
Just follow
No.
us around on the street and like, hello.
right.
I'll just kind of wave as you like read the credits, and a lot of people will be like,
Oh,
Voice
well,
acting.
yeah,
voiceover.
and more. Well, I have some questions written down, but honestly, this is more just a conversation. I know you're all great friends, and if it goes in a different direction from what I've asked, great. I will make sure that there's time at the end for Q&A. It's easy to skip that, so we'll make sure everybody, if you have questions for our guests, that you get to ask. But the first thing I would love to start with is your backgrounds. Was performing in your background? Did you do high school drama? Did you have childhood dreams of doing voiceover, or was it something that you stumbled onto later in life?
I'll start.
All right.
Because I know their stories. So I was I mean, I for sure was that kid. I was, always had, a love of doing the intrigue of animation and doing voices and character work. But at like around age 10 is where I sought out my first audition. This is back when we actually looked in the newspaper,
Oh, wow.
like
Remember
auditions,
those?
community.
Barely.
What's a
theater.
newspaper?
Yeah,
Right?
right. It was like in the back near where you could also like look for pets and
Oh, yeah.
whatever, buy stuff. So yeah, I always wanted to. That was always a dream of mine, to be an actor. And so I went for it growing up, and have in high school I did a ton of community theater, mostly musicals. So I have
Cool.
that background, and it's interesting though, because voiceover was something that I loved and appreciated, and definitely when The Simpsons came out and Nancy Cartwright, I was like, oh my God, that's like this woman doing this amazing boy voice. And that was kind of the moment of like, I'd love to do that. That's awesome. But I still wasn't like laser focused on when I grow up, I'm going to get into the studio. But I, definitely background in acting, and took a little chunk of time off to be, late teens, early 20s, experienced
Yeah.
all that.
That's
whatever
great
comes
life
with that.
experience, right?
Yeah. And then, just, kind of was in a situation, school was never my thing. Sorry, I'm saying, I'm being real, people. Stay in school, kids. But it was not like, not my thing. So I was just working a job that was a little soul sucking, and I was like, I can't, this is not it. And I had a friend who was doing spots like for Sprint, and I was like, oh yeah, that avenue, voiceover. I wanted to
That's a
get back into
thing.
acting, and it was kind of this like just dawned on me moment. And as they know, and I openly tell students, because like, well, how did you get an agent? So the school thing came in very handy, because I actually did go to school with Nate Tico, whom probably a lot of students of Voice One
You went
all
to
know.
school
We're all
together.
or were represented by, got our starts with Nate. We went to high school together. So I called him kind of like, hey man, I want to get back into acting. Like this is where my heart's at. Want to go for it. And he helped open that door for me. So
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's my
In fact,
background.
Melissa is also an incredible singer. If you
Yes.
haven't seen her, I think you have some Instagram videos of you and your sister singing. And if you ever get a chance to do karaoke with Melissa Hutchison, Run, Don't Walk, because it is unfriggin' real.
Maybe
Put
skip
it on
your
the
own
list.
song
Okay.
and just sign her up twice.
No.
Wow, I had no idea.
Well, and on that note, you should probably, both of them can sing as well. Gavin's an amazing drummer, but Cissy, just have her do a Britney Spears song.
Oh yeah.
What you're saying
one of
is
my the best
karaoke
moments of my
with
life
all
was
three of
Cissy
you
Party
needs to
will
happen.
never
karaoke
stop.
Britney Spears.
Yes.
Like amazing.
Have any of you got to
laugh
sing
to this day.
for a voiceover role before?
Oh sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's all there. It comes up all the time. If you can sing.
If you can
sing.
yeah. So, well,
Totally
sometimes
fine.
even if you're not a great singer, then that
Yeah.
works out in your. But yeah, no, Trixie Trotter for Telltale Games. That's her whole thing, was being a nightclub singer. And I got Jared did all the music. Jared Emerson Johnson, who did all the music for all of Telltale Games, but The Walking Dead. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, there's a lot of singing to be done in the VO world.
Call of the Sea had a song that a duet that Yuri Lowenthal and I did together. It was a remake from an old 1918 song, and we sang
Is it a
it
shanty?
in like two. No, it's not a shanty. It's like it's really funny because you listen to the old video, the old recording, and it's like, oh my life, like it's this super weird style of singing that we just don't have anymore. But they remixed it for kind of a more modern sound, and it was really fun. Cool. It was really fun.
That's awesome.
So what's your story, Cissy?
So I did not have an acting background. I mean, I did some plays and stuff in high school, and I remember thinking at one point when I was like 6, I was like, I want to be an actor when I grow up. And my dad was like, no, you want to do finance and the business and do the business. Don't do the acting. And so I was kind of derailed from it for a while. and I actually got a degree in business and Spanish, and worked in the Silicon Valley for 10 soul-sucking years, and super hated my life. And then Nancy Cartwright, who's Bart Simpson, came on the radio one morning when I was getting ready for work, talking about voiceover and how it was the best job in the world. And oh, by the way, you guys in the Bay Area, you're so lucky you have a voiceover school right in your backyard. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because I'd always wanted to do it. Like I literally just had a conversation with my husband about how I wanted to be a voice on The Simpsons, and then there she was. So I started taking classes, and about 2 years later, I got an agent. I quit my job, and we moved to LA, and the rest is history.
Wow.
So,
did that all happen right after? Like, did you quit your job and move to LA right then, or was that kind of a 5 or 6 year process?
no, I mean, it took about 6 months. We didn't have kids. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was really lucky. I was able to get signed in LA before we moved, because I had taken classes with my now agent, and I knew him, and I was able to call him and be like, hey, remember me? And he read me on some scripts, and he liked what I was doing, and signed me before I moved. And then we moved because I was like, well, we don't really have massive ties up here, so we should just go. So we did. It's been great.
Cool.
I just taught at Voice One on Saturday. On a Saturday? Can't remember if it was my Saturday class or the Wednesday class. Anyways, I was using your story. There's so many different levels of how, of how we get our start in voiceover and how quickly it happens or how not. I was using you as an example because I was like, man, Cissy Jones, like it was like bam, and then it was like hello world.
Yeah.
Using me as an example of I was like hello world, and it was like like crickets. I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something to be said about coming into, I mean, I was 30 when I changed, right? So like I'd had a little bit of life experience. I knew about running a business. I worked in the startup land for a while. And so I knew kind of the back end of it. And I think that really helped a lot when I did make the jump, because I feel like, as actors, we're always taught to like find the heart of the piece and really infuse the character with yourself. But we don't ever learn how to run a friggin' business, which is what we do. And so being able to come into it with that, I think was a real leg up for me.
Yeah. Well, and you're extremely talented. I'm just gonna shout. I shout spoke that. That was shout.
If you didn't know already.
Yeah. So Cissy's quick story is my story, basically only drawn out over 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Same thing. I was in my 30s. I did plays in high school and college and sang musical theater and stuff like that, choir. And did a lot of voice training, vocal training as, with singing coaches and whatnot. And then eventually I was in a band. As Melissa pointed out, I'm a drummer. And so I was in a band touring and playing around the world. The band was called Dance Hall Crashers, if anybody wants to look it up. But so we played a ton, and then eventually kind of got tired of playing the same small clubs over and over and over again. And so we stopped, and I was working in construction, and my dad called me up, and he was listening to the radio and heard Samantha Paris of that school that Cissy just mentioned. And I sort of went and took classes and spent about 5 years sort of, banging my head against different walls, trying to get my, just at least get some sort of interest or recognition. Took classes with Nate specifically and kind of realized that was a path for me. I had a pretty good handle on what I wanted to do. And then eventually just got signed, and then signed in LA, and, got a better agent in LA, and just kind of kept on doing it.
Stuff started happening.
But The Simpsons was definitely the impetus for me. I didn't know anything about voiceover, but I always did voices and accents and mimicked people, my whole life. So for me, it was just kind of like, oh my God, I was born to do this thing, and I didn't even know it was a thing.
Same.
I think that's the story for a lot of people. Yeah. And it makes me so happy to know, like, that you kind of discovered this in your 30s too, because I'm in my early 30s, and it's like, you don't have to be a young, like, 18-year-old fresh out of high school going, I know what I want to do with my life.
Right.
You can
I always go
later.
back to the fact that Alan Rickman didn't become an actor until he was 47.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right? Or he didn't book a major role till he was 47. Alan friggin' Rickman. So
Yeah.
we're okay.
He's 47 in Die Hard?
I think Morgan
Seriously?
Freeman was the same way.
Whoa.
Morgan Freeman was like, I don't know, it was like 50s or something
I
before.
have heard
Yeah.
that about Morgan Freeman too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so inspirational to know,
Yeah.
like it. You don't. It can happen for you.
You can find it whenever.
Mhm,
Yeah.
you
And
can
with
find it whenever.
voiceover, obviously it's not so much this, it's, you can, if you can do the voices and, yeah, it's
Yeah.
timeless. Voiceover, it's timeless.
From De Beers.
Brought to you by Voice One.
So what does a typical day look like for you guys?
Oh.
Voiceover
Screaming,
related.
pulling hair out, running around.
And then you get in the booth.
And then you get
Stressing.
into
Oh, that's in the
Oh.
booth. No, just kidding.
I
Every
mean,
day's different.
Yeah.
Every day's different.
Usually for me, I
You know,
get
it's-
up and audition whatever's coming through. And then, if you've got a gig, these days it's nice because I'm not commuting anywhere.
Mm.
I'm commuting downstairs, which I kind of love. Back in the day,
Although
you'd get up and drive and maybe drive to the next one, and get yourself home at a decent hour.
I did have to get a voiceover sign that comes with a remote control to let my family know to shut the heck up
That's
Yeah.
because
hilarious.
mommy's working.
That's so good.
We had I have kids. We had a school pod hosted at our house for this last year, and it was 6, 8-year-olds, and I was like, "Shut up!"
Shut up.
Mama's working.
She's mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that little on-air sign recording.
Good.
it's
So cool.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
It's an interesting question because
Great.
things have been obviously a little different.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a little stressful for me. I don't have, they're like, must have professional home studio. I'm like, oh, let me just go get that going in my tiny 400 square foot apartment here in Berkeley, where I barely have a closet for clothes and for me to stand and record my auditions. So I mean that question, are you talking pre-COVIDs? But yeah, there was a lot of scrambling and but when
Some of us had been
No, it was
bugging you
actually-
about that forever,
I know.
Oh, really?
Well, it really is.
It's
It's my space. I mean, it really is. Like, I mean, all you Bay Area peeps online, I mean, and it's really hard when you're. It's not. It's totally doable, but it was something that was immediately thrown at you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot, and it doesn't, kind of costs money as well.
Yeah,
There's
and all the
that
prices
factor.
quadrupled.
Yeah, and they're like, do you have a Neumann? Everybody, they're like, well,
You
we'd prefer
can't
if you're
find a
working with a
mic.
Neumann U87. You're like, oh yeah, let me just, I mean, it was a bit of a scramble, and
Yeah.
still working on it.
I was
Gavin
fortunate.
knows.
I was fortunate to be sort of set up and ready enough. So when it kind of came and everything shut down, I was kind of like, I don't have to go anywhere anymore, which was pretty rad. As a silver lining, that and the beer they ship to your house these days is also really, really cool. But no, for me, I was ready. I just had to do a bit of extra soundproofing. So I called Jim Edgar and he helped walk me through some stuff. Because as you may have noticed, my space is odd. And
it's not unique.
I built it myself, so it's got some weirdness to it.
It's not weird. It's amazing. Those
it's
are all action figures
absolutely.
for people who haven't figured it out.
It's comfortable
he has
for me.
an amazing action.
It's not just on the back wall; it's the side wall.
They're
and
everywhere.
as the
They're
kids would
yes,
around on all sides, and they're above me, and they're in front of me. It's
It's amazing.
Do you ever, when you're recording, do you ever just grab one for inspiration? And
I in between takes, I'll totally sit here and just be like, "You're not straight."
make sure they're all lined up.
And we've lost him.
Yeah. And then that's it. Goodbye. Yeah. No, so
Gavin?
pre-COVID, I was ready, which was, I think, advantageous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it still
same.
had to
I had a closet decked out, and then I built a booth. But
yeah.
Is that what you're in right now? Is that a home? Are you home, or do you have the external
Yeah.
studio?
So I was renting an office space with Larissa Gallagher and Yenny Alvarez, and our landlord cut our lease short. And Larissa was like, "I've got this 6x6 booth. Anybody want it?" And I was like, "Kids, you're sharing a room."
Yeah.
Took over my daughter's room and built this like 6x6, which is great.
Nice.
That's
Oh
awesome.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
So, do any of you remember your very first voiceover job?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. What was it?
Yeah. That would be
Katya.
pretty.
Katya was yours?
Nice.
It was
Cool.
fine.
That's an awesome first job.
Amazing
It was
first job.
awesome, and I didn't realize how awesome it was because it was my first job until you know, I started working on other games and stuff, and you'd meet other people that you shared a credit with and be like, hey, we're both in that thing, and it's like, okay, kid. And then I met these people and I was like, guys,
yeah.
I'm Katya, and everyone was like, Katya, get in here, oh my god, I can't believe what they did to us. And it was like, I mean, it was just lightning in a bottle, that game. It was really incredible.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
Mine was for a local auto body repair shop. And it was a very early 2000, late 90s kind of, you know, there's a bass and then
Oh
like
yeah.
drums or brushes, and it's just this stripped down. If you damaged your car, so that was mine. It was 3
Nice.
spots, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's
It
great.
is.
As a first gig.
Mine was for an Atari Superman game.
Wow, I played that, like the
nice.
2600 Atari game. Get out of here.
I'd have to look it up on IMDb. I don't know if it was it was made for Konami. It was like Konami for Atari, whatever. I can't remember. It was Superman Man of Steel. That's
How
the
old
title
were
of
you?
it.
How old were you?
I mean, this was back in 2001,
Oh, okay.
maybe. I'm
Not the
not
one
gonna-
I was thinking.
I was
I was 8.
I was 9.
Just fresh and young, and now that I'm 34, it was a long ass time ago. If that's what you're asking. And it was like super. I mean, it was awesome. It was Greg Weber. Why am I totally? What was his
Yeah.
sound? Whatever his name was.
Webtone.
Webtone. Thank you. Yeah, it was just like super. I was so nervous. Oh my god, I can still feel how nervous I was going into that session. And you know, just like literally it was like a help me Superman, and then I plummet from a building, and like thank you Superman, and I was maybe like random person number 4 as well, and maybe did like a little thanks, oh mom, look, it's Superman, you know, whatever, and then that was it. But I remember leaving feeling like, and I still feel that way. I feel that way after so many gigs. There are still so many gigs that I'm like, yeah.
After my first session that I did, I remember thinking, how did I trick them into thinking that I was capable of this?
Yeah.
And I did great, but I remember having all that doubt afterward. Like I fooled them. Did you guys ever experience that?
One of my subsequent sessions I had at Creativity, and I worked on, I think it was a book or something, a talking book, and they played reference for me, which I thought was going to be reference for whoever I was trying to voice match. And I was like, oh crap, that's me. They've screwed up the file somehow, and I'm matching myself. What? Why am I here?
So you just leave.
I thought they were gonna, you know, I don't know what reference. God, that's me. If they're wrong, yeah. I get it now, but
I still have gigs. There are certain gigs that I go. I mean, obviously, you know, once you're comfortable in a booth and you know all those. I mean, because in the first gig for me, it was like, all right, don't touch the mic. All right, don't, you know. I mean, it just like there was so many things.
Don't say pickup.
Yeah, don't.
Good Lord, don't.
Back up.
Oh.
But you know, I mean, it just there are still some gigs that I book where, you know, going into the session, it's not, you know, sunglasses and like, hey, what's up? You know, you're still just like, you know, the nerves are there.
I'm working on one now that's like, it's a dream, and I can't, of course, say anything about it. But when I got the call that I booked it, I like broke into tears because it was, I mean, it's like a dream for forever, and so to be able to be a part of it is just it's great. And it's going to be like 2 years before it comes out, so I'll let you know.
It does put on the pressure, though. The pressure.
Can you give us an idea what the genre?
Like,
what genre is it? Can you tell us
it's
that?
animation. That's all I can say.
Nice.
Cissy's good at her NDAs. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we're all walking NDAs. So
yeah, I like my children. I don't want to give them up. Also, my left arm. I like to keep them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want an NDA passport.
Yeah.
Like I will say, like I walked into a session for Darksiders 3, I think, and the people in the control room were in like a real weird mood, and I was like, "What's the vibe? What is happening right now?" And they're like, "The actor that was in here before you, Facebook live streamed his session," and I was like, "I'm sorry,
what?"
For the first and last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, yeah. What was the
Oh,
repercussions
no.
of that? Did
Recast and out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Like,
Probably
and that's it.
never
Like
cast
you don't.
again.
that's
Nope.
dumb.
You're out.
Oops.
You're done.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I remember. Maybe it was around that time. I think I
So-
remember, and I think it might have been from Dean getting an email going around saying, "Hey, actors,
Yeah.
could you please not Instagram live or
No.
do anything?" And I'll take in the booth taking a picture, and I'll make sure that the script isn't even like someone
Yeah.
could
Mm.
zoom
Oh, yeah.
in.
I know. I realized, like, with this reflection back here, I'm like, I should probably cover that.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody out there is gonna sleuth it, but you can't
People
see
are
anything
good at
right
that.
now.
You know, nowadays you can.
Cameras are so many pixels that you
Mhm.
can zoom in,
Yep.
clean it up, and see pretty much
Here's what you're
anywhere.
gonna see now if you look. Camera.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be that kind of stream.
It is now.
We go find some dogs.
Woo!
Yeah, Gavin has a lot of animals he could
Oh.
contribute.
If I
I love
opened
it.
these doors, yes, I'm sure all sorts of things would come wandering in.
And Melissa, you have a cat too, right? No,
I
you
have
have
a
a dog.
dog,
You have a doggy.
Maple. She's not with
Maple
me right now,
Marie.
otherwise I would hold her up
No.
With one hand.
with literally one hand.
Like,
3-pound Chihuahua.
So
so
cute.
cute.
Yeah.
So have you guys ever gotten to record a session together? I mean, I know that's happens less and less nowadays. It's mostly all solo stuff. But has it ever
Melissa
happened?
and I have once.
We
when-
did. You and I did, Gavin. I mean,
Did
we both got cut from the game, but we did get to do it.
Oh,
Remember?
correct. I remember. That was a fun day. That was
Actually,
a fun
was a
week,
fun day.
wasn't it? Yeah, it was like
Yeah, it
3 or
was.
4
It was like
days.
30
Oh,
hours
yeah.
of recording.
It
And
was.
Right.
Yeah.
Gonzo.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
I did get to
Gavin-
record Firewatch with my guy, with Rich, but yeah,
Oh, you did that together.
it's rare.
Nice.
Pretty
Mm.
rare. Gavin, we did walking 1 or 2. I think there was a brief 1 or 2 during
Yeah, there were
season 3.
2 sessions for season 3, just sort of
And
wrapping
then the Last of Us stuff
my
that we did.
storyline.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
That's
we-
true. The
we
Last
got
of Us,
the-
we were in the same
Yeah.
place too.
I feel like you and
Yeah,
I
I wasn't with you
recorded.
guys, but
We've done other things as well. We've had like wasn't there some weird corporate thing that we did for Intel or something with a whole, it was
Yes.
like a cast
Yes.
of people. There was like
You were the
one-
wizard.
I was the wizard. Sure. There was one guy who kept telling his stories in between every single take. I think we all know who I mean. And it was yeah, I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Sadly, I have not. Sissy, this is making my brain hurt. My brain is not super solid these days, though. But I don't
same.
know. I don't. God, if we never worked in the studio, that's actually that's
I don't
criminal.
think we have.
If that's
I
the
know.
case. That's actually.
I
criminal.
have started to do more like table reads more and more. I remember Arkham Knight, I walked in as Nora Freeze and I got to record with Maurice LaMarche, which was amazing. Like
Yeah.
I was like 8 months pregnant and I walked in and I was like, I'm gonna pee. Because he's so great. Like he's like the voice of my childhood and he was so
Yeah.
lovely and it was beautiful. And then Firewatch was all recorded, me in my home studio, Rich in his home studio. And then like a lot of animation stuff lately, they've been doing more table reads, especially since we can do Zoom. I'm working on another show right now where I play a twin with an actor who I love dearly, and it should hopefully be coming out soon. And they finally let us record together
Mm.
and just play off each other, and it's just big stupid fun. It's just
Oh,
ridiculous.
yeah.
But Melissa, we gotta remedy this. And Gavin, we should probably do it where we actually get to stay in the game. That would be.
Right.
That
We
would
should
be
do it
good.
where we actually
I
can
would like that.
get something out of it. It's a little longevity. Rather than
And you
just
know, listen,
really angry, angsty stories.
there is something to be said for that, which is it's not if you get replaced in a game, it's when.
Yeah, for
Everybody
sure.
gets replaced and it sucks and it's never fun and it happens. And it's, you know, commercials and games and animation. And I was actually, so the movie that got nominated for an Academy Award, that same director called me the next year and he was like, we're working on the next thing and I need you to record it. And it's Christmas Day and I was visiting my family in Idaho and literally everything is shut on Christmas Day because it's a super red state. And I like found a place that would open and he called in from Prague and we did the thing and it was awesome. And they took it to Sundance and HBO bought it and they immediately recast me with Helen Mirren. And I was
Mm-hmm.
Welp.
Wow.
Yeah.
All that work and
Oh yeah, I walked out of a
Darn.
session once, and like 15 minutes later, Nate called me. He's like, "So the good news." He's like, "Good news and bad news."
They're gonna
He's
pay
like,
you.
Good news is you're getting paid. I mean, the session itself, though, I was just like, "Please recast me," and that sounds like I mean, it was brutal. It was, I mean, even the directors and a lot of the producers were looking at me like, sorry, but there was like that one person who was, anyways. Yeah, I mean, getting recast is like, it's not fun, and
Yeah.
you know, and
But it
you're not
happens.
immune to feeling like, oh, that
Right.
kind of, that stings, but it is.
Yeah.
It's how it's handled. That's the big thing.
It is.
Sure.
Yeah.
How the studio or
Yeah.
how the casting people deal with it. That's the
Right.
thing.
Which is very often they don't. Like we
Mhm.
just find out when it airs.
Yeah. Which is a huge
You're
drag.
like, that's
So-
not me.
That's
Or they
not
just
me. Wait a
keep
minute.
postponing. They keep scheduling those sessions and then postponing them over and
Yeah.
over and over again.
Right,
It's been like
right.
9 sessions that you've postponed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's breaking it easy, you know. just let me
Yeah.
down fast and
Maybe
get it
stop
over.
calling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do any of you, this is sort of a tougher question, but do you recall any moments in the booth afterward or during a session where there was just like this huge aha moment, or like I would never do that again, like a big oops moment? Anything you could pass on to people listening?
I had one a couple weeks ago that was really demanding, like really vocally stressful, which they scheduled on a Monday that I was really kind of angry
Nice.
about. Like, if you're going to do that on a Friday, because I had
Totes.
a very full week of other sessions, and the director kept pushing me harder and harder and harder. And like, I don't do Berserker. It's just not my jam. Like, give me emotional depth, and you know, I'm great. But it was a thing that I did an audition, and it just got really bad, and he asked me to do a like make my voice crack as I like died or whatever, and I felt something pop, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Thanks. I'm out. I literally can't speak. It was really scary. I have a vocal coach that I had to call, and we like did a rehab session, and it's really freaking scary.
Yeah. Well, and I know too that you've been all about vocal health lately. Like, you were a big part of the Svara project and all that.
Which is, I would say, if you don't have a vocal coach, just for singing, like to know how to warm up, and somebody that knows what your range is, and if something needs to be repaired, please get one. Just somebody that you can check in with and say, listen, I had a really rough session. Does this sound okay, or do I need to go get a scope? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of speak to that as well. You know, and I was going to start with, well, they don't do it as much these days, unless it was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, exertions, especially in game work, and it's not to beat up on games, but I mean, that's the thing. There's, you know, death and dying, and, you know, it's high combat, high energy
battles.
kind of battles. And it was actually a Walking Dead thing though, and this was me. They were like, "Hey, do you want to be this one character who gets taken out by walkers?" And I was like, "Yeah." And thankfully, I was going on vacation. Actually, it was like the day before. After doing this, you know, like screaming, crazy, realistic, getting eaten alive, and different, you know, like, okay, now they're, you know, biting through your, you know, arm. All right, now they're starting to rip at your neck, and just getting bigger and bigger. And my voice was like, I think 2 octaves lower in register for like 2 weeks. I was like, well, I should probably never do that again. And you know, and I starting, you know, teaching and working with students in all categories, I try to remind, like, when you're auditioning, and I've done that too, where I come up with some crazy ass voice, and then you book the gig and you're like, oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Can I even do it?
Yeah.
Or again, because I don't know what I did when I was auditioning, or can I maintain it? And also a big thing that I did in the beginning was I don't know if it's this Midwestern thing, but I didn't want to like step on anybody's toes. So I was really bad about being like, hey, I need like 5 to like, you know, because I was
advocating for yourself.
Yeah, and trying to get them in the quickest amount of time, and like do a good job and just stay.
Well, we want to be the good dancing monkey. Like, someone tells us to dance, and we want to be like, okay,
exactly.
That's the actor's thing, right? We want to entertain, we want to please, we want to make people happy.
Right. So yeah, that's a good learning lesson, is be okay with. I mean, not if you're prima donnaing but it depends on if it's vocally that challenging. If you need every 5 minutes to like take a minute or 2 to like have some tea and relax, do it. But you know, just
also the voice draw, like I don't get paid to talk about it. I don't, but this thing has saved my bacon.
What is
This
it?
is what I came home. It's a warm-up technique. She sends different straws of different diameters and different lengths. And then also
Huh.
there's a silicone cup that comes with it that helps with efforts. So when we did the Savara project in March, I actually went down to Dr. Gupta's office and we put a scope up my nose and on my throat. And I did efforts before and after this thing. And you can see the space that it opens up in your throat when you do it through this first and then you do it, it saves you. So when I did my rehab session, it was with that. And it's a game changer. It totally changed. It also helped me like unlock new range, you know. It's worth it. And you can see even in the
Oh
chat,
yeah.
everyone's saying they're magic, it's worth the money, they're great. I cannot recommend it more highly. And when you buy them, Mindy will send you warm-up videos for men and women, and she does private coaching and everything. She's amazing. I absolutely
Hmm.
I stan her.
Cool.
Voice straw.
Yes.
And Gavin, how about you? Any big oopses or aha moments in the
I've
booth?
I've had like some sessions where I just sort of got myself into a situation that I kind of talked myself into a job that ended up being kind of ridiculous.
Mm.
Which one of which was like working on Furby. The thing had its own language, and I was for the original iteration that I did, which was like in 2010 or 2012. I have a linguistics background, so I, have a linguistics degree, and so I have on my resume that I can speak other languages and whatnot. So when they went to localize the toy, they kind of said, okay, well, it says on your resume that you can speak these other languages, so they would like you to try to localize the thing. And I'm like, yes, I'm the most qualified person on the planet to localize that toy. I think were the words that I actually typed out. So first session was a demo for Mandarin,
Ooh.
which I don't speak. So the script was written, of course, in Chinese, which I can't read.
Actual
But
Chinese characters,
oh
not.
yeah, oh yeah. And my coach for that was just a native speaker, so she couldn't teach the language or anything. So that was a learning curve. I remember when we went to start doing Japan or Japanese, like I did my first line, and it's like probably 20 people are on the phone in Japan from Takara Tomy. And it's like I do my first line, and like the phone is just erupts in laughter.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh, that's not great. And then they're all, was that Japanese? And I was like, you tell me.
No.
And then they said, we would like a moment to speak with Josh, who was like the head of, he was like the tech guy who was, in charge of all of the implementation and puppeteering and whatnot. And I was like, well, I'm going to pack, because if they want to talk to Josh, they're done with me. So that was fun. It eventually worked out just fine. But yeah, definitely something that I probably talked myself into that was maybe not a great idea. But it was a great gig. And that's how I dragged Melissa down into it too.
Well, that Mandarin, I was going to say, actually, I ended up, it was just too much for Gavin to possibly do, literally localizing it into like, what was it, like 20 languages at one point? They had to split it up, or else it would take
so
like
many.
a
Yeah.
bazillion years. That's how
And it's all
I-
gibberish, isn't it?
No, there's words. That's why the
Sadly,
English.
it is all
Ah.
words.
So, or the other
Wow,
languages.
so it's a combination of gibberish and
Of
all these
Furbish
other
and
languages.
It's its
words.
own language, and then it learns whatever language from the child.
But
So,
my Mandarin session was actually, and Scott was
Charles.
engineering at one point.
Charles Fang.
With Charles, bless his heart, this poor
So
man.
great.
And Mandarin is beautiful, but if you're learning, I'm like, oh, I have perfect pitch. This will be awesome for me. I'll nail it. And I literally, that was the one time in a session where I think Scott looked at me at one point. He's like, do you need to take a break? And it was like, I was quivering, lip was like quivering. I was like, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I almost just like was in the studio, and he could see that I was about to just like, because it was like getting just steamrolled. It was, it was really, that was tricky.
Yeah.
My in-laws are native Mandarin speakers, and
Wow.
it's a really difficult. Like I have a background in Spanish. I lived in Spain. I speak French. My parents met in Brazil. I speak Portuguese. You know what I mean? Like but they're Latin languages.
Yeah.
They're all kind of connected.
There's
Yeah.
a commonality there.
You throw
They're
like
distant
tones
cousins
and
with English too.
oh man, you
Yeah.
throw
Yeah.
tones and characters and pinyin and all that stuff in there, and it's like I didn't know
Yeah.
my throat could make that sound.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
one tone could be like wool, but if you
Yeah.
wool,
Wool.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you're going from
Wool.
high to like,
Yeah.
F off,
Yeah.
buddy.
Different
Like
things. Yeah.
in one
Now
tone.
do
Yeah.
this as a toy and combine gibberish with it.
Right.
Ah,
Don't get me started about the fricatives.
yeah, I know. Yeah, God.
Well, as promised, I'm going to open up to Q&A. As people start putting their questions in the chat, let me ask you, do you have any advice that comes off the top of your head for voice actors, whether they're new to the industry or whether they've been doing it for a while? Advice for professionals as well.
Well, I'll give I'll add a little fluff. I mean, what's helped me out a lot, and I tell this to people because it's legit. I mean, if you watch Oprah's master classes, everybody has something in common. You have to you really visualizing, manifesting, fake it till you make it, however you want to preface it. It's no BS. It's a competitive industry, but if you stay positive and you really focus on getting to where you want to be, and you just start visualizing where you want to be. And I'm not always like, I'm positive all the time. I just told you, I almost walked out of a studio bawling. I mean, there are moments of doubt. That's just human nature. But really, most people who I talk to in this industry who are successful in life, just are, really hone in on the visualization and owning that. And I know it's not not everybody has to go out and make a dream board, but I say do it. It helps. I mean, just really laser focusing on it. You can't be like, I figured, I have weekends free, so I'll get into voiceover. It's like, no, you need to want it bad, and you have to commit. And in order to commit, you just gotta you gotta commit.
Especially now, to add on to that, especially now as rates are changing, usage is changing. Streaming, as great as it is for binge watching, is gutting a lot of our income. So what used to be a nationwide union television commercial that could potentially net you six figures, now you might get $6,000, maybe if you're lucky. You know what I mean? So
a lot of those castings that come through that are even worse.
And they're like $475.
Yeah.
Like $475. Like it's hard.
They're worse
there's
rates
also
than 2004, which is crazy.
Yeah. There's also a lot of celebrity talent that are getting in, and because they come with a built-in fan base, they often get preferential treatment over career voice actors. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just stating facts.
True.
But
it's true.
The biggest thing I can tell you is if you're not having fun recording an audition, the casting director is not having fun listening to you. And it's palatable. I mean, if I've been doing a little bit of coaching, and it's awesome, and I can tell when people are nervous, and I get it, but I can tell when people just let go and have fun. And if you're thinking of an animated show or a AAA game or even a non-union game, for a lead character, they're getting upwards of 1,000 auditions per character, if not more. And if you're not having fun, next, you know what I mean? Again, not saying it to be Debbie Downer, but to be realistic, our job here is to create theater of the mind, truly. We don't have props. We don't have costumes. We don't have a set. We have to make it up. And if we don't see it and we don't interact with it in our brain space, it's not coming through on the microphone, and it's not fun to listen to, and it's not something that's going to get cast.
Totally.
And now I will stand down.
Well, no, and I mean, to
you
your
for
point
that.
as well, if there's a sense of desperation, God, I hope I get it. I hope I get it. I have to remind myself sometimes, you see what the gig is and how much it'll pay or whatever. And you're like, you start to psych yourself out, but that will come through. And it can come through on your name slate. Sissy, weren't you telling me at one point, Dean was like, you need to relax your slate because your slate itself is Cissy Jones, hire me.
Yeah. So when I first got in the Bay Area, when I first got signed, Katya was my second audition, right? Booked out the gate, boom, 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 new booking every week. It was amazing. It was great. And then I moved to LA. And it was real quiet for a year. I didn't book a thing for a year. And it's terrifying. You know, we moved here for me and I wasn't working. Oh my God, what have I done? I've moved my family here. I've made this terrible mistake. I got to go back to corporate. I mean, just all the things. So I got super desperate. And, you know, I would slate. We all know what slates are. And I'd be like, Cissy Jones, you know? And my agent called me and he was
I'm
like,
buying.
Jones, you are so desperate to book. I smell it in your slate. If I smell it, they smell it, and no one hires desperation. Knock it off. And I was like, oh,
thanks.
Yep,
I guess.
got it. And I took a giant step back and I went and did some coaching until I got to the point that people that I trusted, that I knew weren't just blowing smoke and trying to take my money, were telling me, you're fine. You're totally good. You know, yoga, meditation, all the things. And once I got that out of the way, I booked. Like I booked a local grocery store that I had for 8 years, weekly, right? But it just takes confidence, truly, because no one hires desperation. Nobody wants it.
I think just from a practical standpoint, something that everybody can, you know, use, not that what either of you said wasn't, but the things that I can control, I try to control. So I can't control, you know, I can't control the director or I can't control this, but I can control what time I show up. I can control when my auditions are submitted. I can control what I need in a session and what I don't. I can control, you know, sort of all of the things that are, you know, local to me, you know, when I, you know, punctuality, all that sort of stuff. So it's like the more I can try to do good business on a personal level, getting things to clients quickly, you know, like if I'm available to do something ASAP that comes from my agent, I'll get it back ASAP, you know, something like that. Those things I can control. And then like the things that aren't in my control aren't as important because I'm still putting a decent product out there, you know, that hopefully clients will appreciate. And then when they hire you and they see that what you can do for them on so many different levels, then it's just you're building a relationship, you know, and never being a diva. Cause it's like, we're so fortunate to get to do this. And it's like, and you hear about those people. I've had sessions with people that are out there that are kind of like, oh yeah, I like to go a little slower and then I get a lunch break out of it. And it's like, well, I got to get the hell out of here because I got another gig. So I'm trying to give them everything they need fast.
Well, and those people, if you, I think I know Gavin, you and I have been doing it for like, you know, 20, I mean, whatever, upwards of 21, I don't know, 1,000 years.
Okay,
and
17
you'll notice
for me.
Okay, I'm at, I think I'm at
You're
20,
aging me.
whatever.
I'm plenty older.
But the people, and this isn't, you know, it's not a note on personality. Everybody's different and there are eccentric people and there are, but you know, it really is, you see the pattern if you work with people or, you know, people who are more demanding or more difficult or to work with in this span of time. Like, you know, you can see those people not working as much is what I'm trying to say. So they may book work because they're so talented, but ultimately if you are not easy to work with,
word gets around.
Yeah, they talk.
It's a small industry.
We're really only ever competing against ourselves. I mean, sure, you do an audition and 1,000 other people are listening to it, but it's like, you're never going to hear them. And it's like, you might hear what they hired based on if you bought the product or if you see the commercial on TV, but it's like, until then, you have no idea what they're going to do with it. So you just kind of do the best that you've got and, you know, let's see what happens, you know, just roll the dice and forget about it.
I really love that. We're really only competing with ourselves. It's good to keep.
You never hear anybody
else. Might write that on a sticky note and put it in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's incredible advice from all three of you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Got a couple of questions in here. Do you run your auditions by anyone before submitting, like friends or family, or do you just self-analyze and send?
I'll run them by my agent every now and then. Like if it's a thing that I really like, I want to make sure I nail. Not that I don't want to nail everyone, but there are some I'm more confident about than others. Like I had an audition for a little kid voice the other day, and it's something I've been working on for a long time. And so I was just like, hey, can you just give this an ear check? You know, and he's great. I do help friends who sometimes want an ear check, but once you get into the habit of auditioning and knowing your sound, and once you understand the musicality of spots, it requires less external feedback, I guess, if that makes sense. Unless you can go into your agency and get a booth director, then go to your agency and get a booth director, but we can't do that right now anyway. So
right.
I think
That's still a thing.
well, not
Dean does. Dean has it.
Yeah, LA, it's pretty LA. They actually, some agencies in LA are like, yeah, come on in, please.
I
And it's
don't
good
know
to get
that.
FaceTime. In the Bay Area, they would be well, again, pretending there's no COVIDs, like I mean, I guess Brian would probably be like, yeah, come on in the stars, but no, they don't, it's just they're so busy. But in LA, actually agencies down there, our agency at least,
Yeah, I
they're
don't know
totally
that.
fine with that.
I don't know that Atlas does, but
I feel like Atlas, I don't know.
they have booths for sure. But.
Yeah. But in the beginning, folks, if you're more comfortable, you know, running your auditions by anyone,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
someone either who's also involved in the industry or, but yeah, like Cissy said, for the most part, you know, especially once you're, you know, really doing it, you don't. But if it is something that you really are like, I really want this, but I just feel like I audition sometimes, maybe I should start doing that. Because I do read for things sometimes where even with this many years, and especially commercial has like, it used to be like right now back to school, you know, it used to be this like, you know, the commercial, and now it's like you can't sound commercial. We want someone that literally we just walked up to on the street, put a mic in front of their face, and casual, whatever that means, because I'm, whoa, you know, my natural speaking voice is never just flat and just kind of like this, you know, it's morphed. So I
don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God, that sounds so natural.
Yeah,
it's a celebrity read. Don't worry about it. I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm not constantly. I think I'm getting the hang of it, but I listen back. I don't know how my auditions end up on my iTunes, but sometimes an audition will come on in my shuffle and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then I'll listen and I'll be like,
that?
that's horrible. That's so
Good
bad.
Lord.
And I realized it was in that transition of that casual thing. And I was like, I sound like I'm half dead. I sound like literally someone just came and like sucked all energy out of me. That is a time period I probably should have been like, hey friends, if you got a few minutes, can you listen to this? Like, utilize that if you can and when you can, because I think there was a good 2-year period where unless it was character work, I was not booking like straight commercial reads. It was like all character, which is great. Super grateful for that. But the straight reads were like,
it's not where the money is.
Yeah.
Well, they're usually seasonal. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Really quickly, Cissy, I know you have a gig at 11.
Oh.
So if you need to hop off now, maybe Melissa and Gavin can stick around and answer a couple more questions.
But what if they're all for Cissy?
I know, right?
Well,
I think Cissy would say that for Cissy.
Her cat's name is, I should know your cat's name. That's really sad. What's your cat's name again?
Catbutt. No, this is Dozer. Dozer. He's like super needy.
Excellent name for a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boy cats are super needy. We've got
so needy.
4 and they're very needy.
4. Good Lord.
Yeah. We have 6 total. That's a lot of
and don't worry, he's not the password for any of my stuff. So
don't you even try it.
Don't make your cat,
thank you
your
so
pet
much
names
for
your passwords.
I know. Thank you so much for having me
Yeah,
on, and
so
Melly,
much.
Gavin, I missed you guys. It's really good to see your faces.
I love
and
you.
I'm teaching. I think I'm teaching in a couple weeks, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I'll put that information in the chat. Actually, all 3 of these wonderful people are teaching. Cissy and Gavin this month, and Melissa a couple times throughout the next couple months.
Am I teaching this month?
Not this month. No, I think you're in. I have the dates.
Voice actors. Voice actors. We have no idea what we're doing unless it's tomorrow.
Voice actors. What's the date?
Next week? Oh, don't worry about it. Next week. We'll figure it out. We'll find a time.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys, and thank you everybody for coming and listening to us babble. Have fun.
Love you,
Cissy.
Love you guys. Bye.
All right, so let's see. What kind of training or how much training have you continued to do throughout your career?
You know, I that was one of those things that I don't think I ever reached a point where I was like, I've made it. It's kind of like
I've got
learning.
it all.
Yeah, I don't need anything. nothing. Again, back to the commercial reads. I probably should be doing more, actually. I mean, in the beginning, of course, there were, I studied with Elaine at Voice One. I took some, obviously when you're getting started, you're going to be taking the bulk of your classes. But I am saying this to remind myself as well, and especially down in LA. And in the Bay Area, I don't know why I keep saying LA, but you get to work with casting directors for Disney, so you're learning, but you're also like, hey, look at me. I think once you get really settled, obviously you don't need to take, 6 classes a month or something, but it is always good to brush up, and it is always morphing and changing. And getting in a classroom setting is really uncomfortable for me. I get really nervous. Like I don't get nervous going in. I mean, I sometimes, depending on the gig.
Oh, funny.
It's good to get, like when it's my turn to read, like I'm like, yes. And I'm like, and it's a bunch of voice actors sitting around going, what's she gonna do? And you're just like, oh,
better be good.
It's kind of horrifying. So afterwards, it makes me feel like if anything makes you that uncomfortable, you should probably be doing more of it. So until the COVIDs, I was at least taking, oh my God, I'm sorry, my brain, in LA, Voice
Actors Network.
Thank you. I was taking it, thank you. Probably at least 3 classes a year, with different directors, and getting into,
That's great. So you're just always staying on top of it.
I mean, probably not as much as I should be, but yeah, I mean, that is definitely there was a good chunk of years where I didn't take any classes. And then I finally did. And I was like, at that moment, that uncomfortable thing. And also realizing that, things in the industry with animation, even animation's becoming, we want really real reads, and I grew up with, Scooby-Doo, everything changes. So if you're not
staying on top of trends,
staying on top of it, so the best way to do that, of course, is to get with other voice actors and take these classes. So not all the time, but I definitely am fully in belief that it never hurts to take classes.
I also think just training towards the things you want to do. I don't do a lot of promo and narration and stuff like that, so I'll work one-on-one with instructors, just to kind of brush up and just make sure that what my instincts are, or what my training has sort of laid out that I should be doing, that I'm at least in the right ballpark. Same with animation, I'll do like, Voice Actors Network or something like that, or I'll get a one-on-one with a casting person and just sort of go over, where, how to approach something right in the first place, so that they at least listen and consider you, rather than like approach something where it's riddled with mistakes, and then you're kind of like, yes, all of this was, doesn't even come across as viable. So yeah, I try to just kind of keep up with the things that I want to be doing more of. Whereas it's like some of the other stuff, it's like if I am working plenty, or I don't feel like it's work that I need to keep doing, there's certain things that, I could do less of, and that'd be fine. It just sort of depends.
Right. And also for people who've been, I've known who've been doing it as long as we have, also before you put out like a demo, like I wouldn't, in my right mind, because I don't do a lot of promo, barely any. I could say I don't do any, but that's negative. I'm manifesting my promo work. I would most certainly get a coach before I was like, well, I'll just do a promo demo. Like I would work with someone 100%, because as we know too, demos are not cheap, and you don't want people to hear, oh yeah, Melissa Hutchison, she sent us her demo and it was horrible, because that's locked in.
That's a timestamp too. I mean, all of those things change so often too, that you need to update or add something to kind of represent a particular, target demographic or whatever it is you're trying to get across.
Right.
But yeah, you're never really done working. You can't really get complacent, because the
business
like is always
art.
changing. Yeah.
I just compared it to martial arts. It's like martial arts, man.
Because going, you get that black belt, you're not done.
It's not. That's not the end.
No, it's just the beginning. Well, it's already 11, believe it or not. So, so we had some amazing questions here. but I think I got to let you guys go and get on with your days. But what I can tell everyone listening is that I did put it in the chat. All three of these wonderful people are teaching. Cissy Jones is teaching August 15th and 22nd, Video Game Finesse. Yes, the links are there too. Gavin Hammon is teaching The Modern Announcer, commercial class. And Melissa Hutchison is teaching. She's a big part of our core curriculum. So she regularly teaches characters in action and character styles. And she also has an advanced acting class, Turn It Up to 11 in December. It's a ways out, but worth the wait.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much. This is a really fun hour for me. So great to hear you talk. I love your chemistry too. You all, the three of you, just like it's so obvious you're friends, and it's
we love each other. And Danny, I cannot believe, like, good Lord, we had an opportunity to meet each other
and we
person,
didn't.
and I still
I was even at the school twice last week.
I know.
Just the wrong days.
I mean, we go way back at this point, but
we do.
So thank you.
One of these days coming up soon. You're very welcome. Yeah,
for sure.
Cool.
Well, I love both of you guys. Thanks everybody for
Danny,
joining,
thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bye you guys. Bye everyone.
Bye.